as we are addressing the issue of boycott, an international boycott focused on Israel, we should probably put it first in the proper context. And the first question that we should address is, what were the Israeli policies that were implemented towards Palestinians over the past decades? After all, if Israel has been enabling to the Palestinians to develop their economy, it would seem rather unfair to call for the international community to boycott Israel at this stage. We can divide the Israeli policies towards the Palestinians into 5 different kinds of policies, also roughly falling into 5 periods of time. The first kind of economic policy that was implemented by the Zionist movement against Palestinians was known as Hebrew labor. Hebrew labor was a concept that was adopted by the Zionist movement for a dual purpose. One was to create a working class for the Zionist movement, for the Jewish people, that there will be Jews working in physical labor and in agriculture. And the second was to create an economic sphere where Jews would be dominant and where Palestinians would not be controlling the economy. But because Palestine was a Palestinian country, and Palestinians were almost the entire population, Jews started to enforce the idea of Hebrew labor by putting pressure on Jewish businessmen, Jewish customers, not to employ Palestinian workers, not to buy from Palestinians, not to buy Palestinian-made goods, but only to buy from Jews, only to employ Jews, only to encourage Jews to produce the goods. That, of course, is a policy that would be considered today to be racist. At the time, it was largely implemented by the Zionist movement, and when the State of Israel was established in 1948, it was no longer considered to be part of the official policy of the Zionist movement, but in reality, even until today, there are a lot of businesses in Israel who actually continue to employ the concept of Hebrew labor, continue to advertise to the general public that they only employ Jews, that they only buy from Jews, and try to convince their customers to buy from them because they do not employ Palestinians and do not buy from Palestinians. What is especially important to stress here is that the Israeli government doesn't enforce the law on these companies and doesn't make it illegal for them to have such a racist preference only for Jewish labor. The second kind of economic policy that Israel has implemented towards the Palestinians was the deportation of the Palestinian refugees in 1948, the Nakba. And the Nakba, the mass deportation of about 60% of the Palestinian population within the area that has been known to be the 48 borders, which means the legitimate borders of the State of Israel. All of these people left behind them large amounts of land, large amounts of property, especially real estate, and they were never compensated for that property. And furthermore, Israel used this property as part of its tool to draw immigrants, Jewish immigrants, from Arab countries and also some from Europe, and to repopulate the destroyed Palestinian houses with Jewish immigrants in a way that has redistributed the wealth and basically negated the right of the Palestinian refugees to their own property. And one should also mention that there are still today large numbers of Palestinian refugees who are internally displaced refugees, IDP, internally displaced people, who were dislocated from their villages, from their towns within Israel, within what has become Israel. And though they still live within the Israeli borders and they are still citizens of Israel, they have lost their land, they've lost their access to their real estate property.